Section 4, precision. The fifth condition of acceptance is precision. ضبط. The highest level of precision is for the narrator to memorize his narrations, including the chains, to the extent that they are engraved in his heart and he is able to recall them whenever he wishes. And his mistakes are rare, like Fatiha. Yani, he memorizes his knowledge like Al-Fatiha. That's a measuring bar for you, or a standard for you. How well is this thing memorized? Do you know it like Fatiha? Then that's as good as it gets, Yani. That's gold standard there. What that means is those scholars, those big powerful ones, they memorize Bukhari, the whole book of Bukhari, like Al-Fatiha, literally. It's like on the tip of their tongues. They can produce anywhere from the book, from their memory. And Bukhari is just one book, even. So I only mentioned Bukhari just so that you could feel the weight of that. Then add to that Muslim, etc., etc. And remember that each one of those books is several volumes. Bukhari is many volumes. That's a lot of books by itself. And Muslim and all those books, those scholars memorized those books. Yani, like this bookshelf of mine. Imagine every book in this bookshelf, somebody has every single thing there on the tip of his tongue. And that's a small bookshelf. Subhanallah. And his mistakes are rare. This is called complete or perfect precision. ضبط تام. الضبط التام. And it's called ضبط الصدر, precision of the chest. For example, he may recall tens of thousands of hadiths with their chains without reviewing first and make fewer than 5 mistakes. Like what happened with the son of Abu Dawood. When he came to a town and the people, for all intents and purposes, harassed him until he narrated for them. They told him, narrate for us, narrate for us. He told them, I'm not prepared, I don't have my books. They told him the son of Abu Dawood needs his books. He said, then they poked at me or they pushed me until I narrated for them. So he narrated for them, I forgot how many, tens of thousands of hadiths from his memory. Then they wrote down everything he said. They took it to their sheikhs. Their sheikhs checked what he said, and they said everything he narrated was correct, except 6 mistakes. 3 of those 6 mistakes are not from him. He conveyed properly. He transmitted the mistakes. This is a matter unfathomed by the hadith deniers. They cannot conceive how the hadiths could be passed on verbally with their entire chains of narration by generations without being written. Of this matter, they are very skeptical, and for that, they doubt the validity of all or most hadiths. And this skepticism is due to the fact that they are not students of knowledge. They have no experience here. For even the beginning students are charged with memorization. Whoever challenges himself with memorization of the Quran and hadiths and texts of the scholars can easily conceive such a feat as the memorization of the hadith scholars. So one of the things that you want to have, if you want to memorize, yani, even before that, if you want to have knowledge, where's the knowledge? The knowledge is in the hearts. The scholar said the knowledge is in the hearts and it's not in the books. And the scholar said the knowledge is what you take to the shower with you. So then to have that knowledge in your heart means you memorized it. So then to memorize usually means you need to put the effort for that. Different people have different strength of memory. Some people have very easy memory. Just look at something, they won't forget it. If you have that, take advantage of it. And even that itself has levels. That has levels. Some people even are more in that than others. So if you have any level of that, then take advantage of it. And if you want to memorize, then you need to decide. You need to decide. You know what's the difference between the intention and the decision? According to Ash-Shafi'i, the azm and the niyyah. The niyyah, the intention, that's what you do at the moment you start the deed. That's what you have in your heart at the moment you start the deed. The azm is what you have before you do a deed. That's a decision. Don't you say when you haven't done something and you want to do it, you're going to do it as far as you're concerned. You say, I've decided. That means I'm going to. You have to make a decision to memorize. And then you have to follow through. That's just like anything. I don't want to go too far now. That's just like anything. I'm reminding myself that you make a goal for yourself. You set a goal for yourself, and then you follow through and you push yourself to that. Just like how you promise another person. You promise somebody something you're going to do. Get about it? May Allah make us not like those. I mean, so you're going to make that decision and then you're going to do it. Make a plan. Like you're going to memorize at lunchtime, at lunch break while you eat. This ayah or this dua or this whatever it is you wanted to memorize, this knowledge, this whatever. Or that some time you set aside for yourself to do that, this little bit or a lot, or while you're in class or whatever. And then you do that. When you correct your intention in that, and I'll remind you also, don't be intimidated by memorization. Yes, it is a hefty feat. Memorizing is a hefty feat, but don't be intimidated by it. Rather, if it intimidates you, then even more you should then stand up to it and face your fears and memorize. And then you find ways like tricks that work for you, methods that work for you. Maybe we'll come back. There's some methods, we talked about them before. I don't want to go too far from the book here, though. I just wanted to take a moment now to encourage myself and you to memorize. It's very important. Even a little bit, one sentence. In your heart, maybe Allah will admit you to paradise for that. So this skepticism of those hadith deniers of having memorized so many hadiths with their chains of narrations for generations, because remember, they started the movement for documenting the hadiths after 100 years. It's not really a long time. It's not really a long time, 100 years. But it's something. So the hadith deniers are very skeptical that the Muslims had accurately, without documenting, memorized so many hadiths of the Prophet with their versions and their chains of narration. This skepticism is due to the fact that they are not students of knowledge, for even the beginning students are charged with memorization. Whoever challenges himself with memorization of the Quran and memorization of the hadiths, any hadith you've learned, and the text of the scholars, like you might want to memorize Abu Shuja, you might want to memorize At-Tahawi. Whoever challenges himself with such memorization, then he can easily conceive such a feat as the memorization of the hadith scholars, because he's putting it into practice. So then he sees, how's that? Especially when seeing that some of his peers are outstanding in memorization. In fact, a person may be a great memorizer without knowing his talent until he starts. So I've seen that. A person wouldn't know how good is his memory. And I've seen also, like here, when seeing that some of his peers are outstanding in memorization. One story that I saw with my own eyes, when we studied, I was taking as-sirat al-mustaqim. This was before I entered the university in Lebanon. This was like high school level because my Arabic wasn't strong enough to get into the university yet. So we had to memorize the metin, the text of as-sirat al-mustaqim in Arabic, of course. And that was pretty easy class, really, but just we're memorizing the metin. That's it. We weren't taking the sharh or anything. We were learning the metin. So one of the students, he missed some days. And then we had a test, like half the book. It's like a midterm or final or something. So he missed some days. So he came to class and he was very far behind. So the sheikh told him, okay, Samir means recite what you've memorized. Make what you've memorized heard. So he started. He's stumbling, he's forgetting everything. Not satisfactory. Sheikh told him, I don't know how much he gave him. If he gave him the next day or what, I don't remember. Wasn't a long time. Wasn't a feat that I think that I could have done. So he gave him another chance. That brother came in when he did come in, and he was just spitting all of that text. Like, just like that. MashaAllah. And many of those students were like that. Some of those students, even some of them, wallahi, they didn't even have comprehension, but they could memorize. They could pass just off the strength of their memorization. Yani, they could memorize the whole book and then come in and write everything down on the test. And then if you ask them a question, they have no idea how to answer. Subhanallah. A person may be a great memorizer without knowing his talent until he starts. Even if he was not, just like anything else, it gets stronger with practice and persistence. Yes, it gets stronger. So if you're not a strong memorizer, just keep memorizing. It'll get stronger, inshallah ta'ala. We've seen all of that because, like, when you go to the, let's say you go to the Mahad, you start on a low level and you're just taking mukhtasar, for example, and it's your first day in class in your first year, and now you need to memorize mukhtasar, and your first assignment, maybe you have to memorize a paragraph or two, and that's like the hardest homework you ever had in your life, trying to memorize 2 sentences for the next day. But then, lo and behold, and you stayed consistent and you got to the second year and the third year, how much are you memorizing in one day? A lot, because you've been doing it. So just the sheer volume of how much you can memorize will increase because you're doing it all the time. What you found difficult when you first started is a piece of cake now. You can memorize it like nothing. That one, you memorize that now, and what took you all night, you're going to memorize it in 5 minutes, inshallah. So just like anything else, it gets stronger with practice and persistence. Memorizing is an Islamic legacy, and for some scholars, it's a hobby. One scholar, he was memorizing a poem. He got so far in the poem and then he stopped memorizing it. Why? He said, it's not that I can't memorize it. He said, this one's boring. He wanted to memorize something else. Because he wants to memorize, that's the point. Subhanallah. Unfortunately, our modern lifestyles hinder and distract us from achieving what they achieved. Yes, if you want to memorize well, it is very important to have a clear mind. Have a clear mind. If you want to memorize well, do not listen to haram music. It will clutter your mind. And also consider what you consume, sports, and I don't know what else, but that stuff that they have out now on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, that's insanity. It's insanity. Like people that don't have arms and legs are jumping around, like dancing and stuff. It's crazy. So that stuff will clutter your mind. I asked one sheikh, how come we don't memorize like they used to? He said to me, television. That was before the internet was strong. Talking about television. SubhanAllah. Our children watch television and play with computers and phones for hours. The adults use 16 out of 24 hours per day for working and sleeping, let alone eating and other matters. So what's left for study? But do not let this discourage you. Even dedicating an hour per day is better than nothing. SubhanAllah, I remember also, before I went to Lebanon to study, I started memorizing the text of Abu Shuja. Sheikh Samir was teaching that in dawras and camps, and I was memorizing the metin. I think I was memorizing that, and I didn't even know I was going to go to Lebanon. It was just something I wanted to do for myself. And so by the help of Allah, I did set aside an hour every day and memorize something, and it really builds up fast. The accumulation is fast. Don't look down on it. And not just that, what I memorized Abu Shuja like that, little bit by little bit, stayed in my heart way longer than most of what I memorized when I studied in Lebanon, because I was memorizing that, trying to keep up with the studies and not fail. That one I was memorizing at my own leisure. So that one was very well engraved in my heart, more than those ones. To achieve what those scholars achieved, one must dedicate his life to the knowledge like they did. The scholars said, the knowledge will not give you some of itself until you give it all of yourself. There are many stories documented about the memories of some scholars. Among them is the famous story of Al-Bukhari, that story that beautifies any book of Mustalah, in which he came to Baghdad and its scholars wished to test him, as he had become famous for being a great hadith scholar. They selected 100 hadiths and mismatched their texts and chains, putting this text with that chain and that text with this chain, and then they distributed them among 10 men. The people gathered, scholars, statesmen, and laymen, to hear the session. The first man asked al-Bukhari his 10 hadiths, one by one, to which al-Bukhari would say about each, La a'rifuh, I do not know it. The same was done with the second man, then the third man, and so on, until all 10 recited to him their hadiths with interchanged chains. To all 100, he did not say more than, I do not know it. The people of knowledge knew merely from this that al-Bukhari was a master. They turned to each other saying, the man understands. That's before it was clear for everybody else. Just that was enough for those scholars to know. When Bukhari said, I don't know, for every one of them, they knew from that he was a master. However, the layman thought that he was weak and deficient, For how could a hadith scholar not know a single hadith out of 100? Because one of us, a layman, would be hearing the hadith and say, I know that hadith. We wouldn't know the chain, though, for example. Then, when he perceived that they finished asking him, he turned to the first one and said to them, what is correct is such and such. And he put the proper text with the first chain presented to him. Then the proper text to the second chain, then the third and fourth, until completing the entire 100. Then all the people conceded to his knowledge, mastery, and merit. Rahimahullahu ta'ala. It's Bukhari. I think he's white man also, Bukhari, because he's from around Russia somewhere. Probably Caucasian. May Allah have mercy on him. Not that that matters, but only because it matters in a way. Yani sometimes that's encouraging for people. If you knew someone's is a Caucasian, or he's black, or he's Persian, or he's Chinese, or something like that, and you're like that, that you might find that encouraging. Yeah, and some scholars said Allah gives the knowledge to whomever he wills. Had the knowledge been special for some people, then the most deserving of that would have been the Prophet's family. That's what some scholars said. They said, had the knowledge been special for someone, then the most deserving would have been the Prophet's family. They said, but Allah made this one a scholar, and he would have been a slave. And Allah made this one a scholar, and Allah made that one a scholar. This is the high level of precision that we are referring to. There are also stories about Ibn Abi Dawood, already told you that. Ad-Daraqutni, Ash-Shafi'i, Al-Uqayli, and others. As for Ad-Daraqutni, it was said about him that he used to walk through the market with his ears plugged. They asked him about that. He said, it's because if I ever hear anything, I never forget it. So I need to block it out. And also, once Ad-Daraqutni was in a session and he was writing at the same time. So someone said to him, don't write and hear so that you won't be distracted. He said, that's your case. So he says, it's not my case though. I'm okay here. MashaAllah. And Ash-Shafi'i, what happened with him when he was a boy and he was learning from Imam Malik and he wasn't taking any notes. And then Malik told him, I don't see you writing. So Ash-Shafi'i told him, I have memorized everything that you said. So he said, Hati, recite, give what you have. And then Ash-Shafi'i recited to him verbatim everything he said. And Al-Uqayli said about him that he used to narrate without a book. So the scholars said he's either a great scholar or he's a great fraud. So they wanted to test him. So they sent someone who had a book full of mistakes. So he sat with that Uqayli and he's reading, and Uqayli has no book. So Uqayli's listening to him, and then whenever he would make a mistake, he would correct his mistake. And then he kept making mistakes until Uqayli told him, give me the book. Took the book from him, looked in it, and then he started correcting the mistakes in the book. And others. Some scholars said about themselves, every book in this library is on the tip of my tongue. Some said, I memorized the entire collection of Al-Bukhari like you memorized Al-Fatiha. And somebody saying something like that doesn't mean that he's arrogant. If somebody is talking for the sake of Allah, then he will say the truth. Thus, those hadith deniers only discredit this issue because they have not tasted the sweetness of engraving the knowledge into their hearts through hard work and determination. They prefer to serve those who wish to destroy rather than to help to preserve the nation. May Allah increase our determination. Ameen.